Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to all of those who are joining from the UK or on another European time zone. My name is Duncan Edwards. I'm the Chief Executive of British American Business, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you all to this latest event in our Power of Purpose series. And it's a real privilege for us today to have guests, Bastian, the CEO of Delta Airlines, and Shai, Weiss, CEO of Virgin Atlantic and a BAB advisory board member, both with us today. So it's great to have you both back, I should say, to a BAB event. And thanks for giving us your time today. I'd say also a huge thank you to Brand Pie for sponsoring this series, and to Mary Lee Sachs, the US CEO of Brand Pie, for being our moderator today, and for everything that you do with and for British American Business. Just before I hand over to Mary Lee, just a comment about US-UK air travel. I think everybody knows that BAB has been campaigning to reopen air travel, or to remove restrictions, or to limit the restrictions on air travel throughout the pandemic. It is the ability to travel between the markets is a crucial part of the equation for successful trade and investment relationship. And that's critically important, particularly for SMEs who are unlikely to have people on the ground in both markets in the same way that large multinationals do. It was good news the UK opened up without quarantine at the beginning of August. I've made 2 trips since then, but there is still some friction. It was equally good news last week when the US announced a change where they're going to lift the current ban on European and UK travelers, but we still don't have a firm date for that. So we will be keeping the pressure on to make sure that as much of the restrictions that are there, as much of the friction that is there, is lifted, so we can all get back to business. And with that, I'm very happy now to pass over to Mary Lee Sachs.
Thank you very much, Duncan, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Duncan said, this is part of our ongoing program with British American Business, talking with C-suite leaders on the subject of the power of purpose. A few house rules. We'll be talking for about 35 minutes, but if you have questions, please do log them in the Q&A section. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see Q&A. And when we get to the end of sort of a general discussion, I'll be collecting those questions so that we can ask those questions as well. Our guests need no introductions, but let me just say a few words. Ed has been with Delta Airlines 22 years and was named CEO in 2016. During his tenure, Delta has become the world's most awarded airline. When asked to sum up his job in 5 words, Ed's response was taking care of our people. The answer reflects his leadership philosophy, which is based on the virtuous circle. If you take care of your people, they take care of your customers, whose business and loyalty allows you to reward your investors. Very purposeful. Shai Weiss has been with Virgin Atlantic since 2014 and took up the reins as CEO in 2019. He's been part of the Virgin family for 20 years, including being a founding partner of the Virgin Green Fund in 2006. Virgin is known for challenging the status quo, I think we all know that, and shaking up markets while championing people and the planet. Virgin Atlantic's purpose is to embrace the human spirit and let it fly. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for agreeing to speak with us this morning about the power of purpose in your organizations. I'm going to just start with the opening question. Purpose as a business concept has been building momentum in recent years, and it seems to have reached a tipping point. Our 3rd annual survey of CEOs on the subject showed that purpose is now firmly established as the #1 factor in driving business growth, with 1 in 4 CEOs saying they already have a company purpose, and another nearly 2/3 saying they don't have one but want to make one. It's often been seen as a balancing act, though, keeping an eye on creating short-term value while trying to address the importance of the longer term. And that's usually where purpose has been seen to sit. What's changed in this last 18 months to 2 years? Why has purpose surfaced as being so critical? Shai, I'm going to start with you if you want to kind of take a crack at that.
Okay, thank you. Great to be here, of course, with Ed, who I had the pleasure of seeing in London only on Sunday and Monday. So we're reunited on this program. And look, for us, purpose has always been there. By the way, our purpose has changed because we had two purposes, one for Virgin Atlantic Holidays, one's for Virgin Atlantic, and it's everyone can take on the world. And for us, the last 18 months have been just like many airlines, but probably more so given our exposure to the transatlantic and long haul only. It has been grueling and demanding and exhilarating and challenging because we were fighting for our survival. And our people really stepped up. And they stepped up because they have a love for what they do. They have a love and appreciation for Virgin Atlantic. And to do that, you know, if we didn't have a purpose, I'm not saying we wouldn't have got through this, but the fact that they had a purpose that united them, which was all about themselves, but also in service of our customers, for a purpose-led company with an inherent, you know, challenger brand, and it's in our DNA. This is what got us through. A lot of things got us through, our shareholders, our partners, but at the heart of everything was the love and passion of our people to do the right thing as a business, as a force for good.
Thank you. Ed, what's your perspective on why purpose has become so important?
I think Shai said it well, and thank you also for having me. It's great to be with Shai. Just 48 hours ago, we were together in London, so it's good to be connected. It's not the same doing on video, but it's good to be with you nonetheless. The last 18 months have been the most difficult period of time for our world, our society, our industry, and it's been a time for us all to reflect on, you know, why we do what we do, where are we in this world, how did we get here, what's the path going to be going forward. And I think one of the things, in fact, I know one of the things at Delta that's kept our team going, certainly has kept me going, is the purpose that we exist has actually been tested and it's been affirmed that we serve a real purpose in this world, which is to unite and to connect. If I think about, put one word, the purpose of Delta and the product that we offer the world is connection. We bring the world safely together. We bring understanding, we reunite. And if you think about what this world has missed over this last period of time and is desperate for, is that connection, the ability to get back together. So that's what's kept us going. Of course, purpose for us at Delta, it's the heart, it's our DNA. This wasn't a new finding in the last 18 months. Our purpose is taking great care of each other, taking great care of our customers, providing real value to the world. But it's been not just affirmed, but reaffirmed strongly that this world will not heal until we're back together again. And that's the role that both Virgin Atlantic and Delta play importantly between the British and American societies.
You both picked up on this a little bit. Purpose has become a guiding beacon for organizations, and especially when it comes to times of navigating uncertainty, which we've certainly seen in the last 18 months, the pandemic being one of the most disruptive forces in our recent history. It serves as a North Star, and 9 in 10 CEOs in our study of companies who have a purpose statement agreed that purpose helps guide their businesses through uncertainty. You both made some really interesting decisions during the last 18 months of how you led your business. Maybe talk a little bit, you talked broadly before, talk a little bit about some of the sort of aspects that you put in place during the last 18 months that really helped you move through the pandemic period, how you conducted your business. Ed, I'll start with you.
You want me to start? Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, when the pandemic hit, I don't think any of us, I know none of us really understood what was about to happen. And thankfully, we didn't know what was about to happen because it's just been a terribly difficult period of time. But the message I provided to our team, our customers, our investors is that we're going to be focused on protecting our customers, protecting our people, protecting our cash to make sure we can get through this difficult winter, and also protect our future, because we know we have a bright future and we know that purpose we talked about earlier is there. And every step of the way, I've had a phrase, a saying, an expression that my chairman, Frank Blake, provided to me at the start, is that crises don't build character. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people think you have to go through a fire to have your character built. Crisis reveals character, and it reveals our values, it reveals who we are. And that was every morning, and it's still to this day. That's one of the first things I think about, is how are we going to express and show the values of Delta to the world. And I can tell you with pride, those values have been revealed, and they're stronger than ever, because we've all had a chance to see it in life, whether it was blocking the middle seats as we did at Delta, longer than any airline out there, certainly any US airline, for over a year, giving customers the confidence. We know it's safe to fly, but the confidence to have some space and comfort on the plane as we're bringing people back to travel. The fact I set an audacious goal really at the start of the pandemic that we were not going to furlough any people. I told my team, I said, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm going to do my very best and commit to doing my very best. And we've made it through with government support and assistance along the way, but we've not furloughed a single employee. I think we're maybe one of only 2 airlines, maybe in the world, that can say that. The fact that we've emerged from this crisis with our brand stronger, our customer satisfaction stronger than ever, meaningfully higher than where we were just in 2019, which was an all-time high. You're seeing the impact of those decisions are getting through to customers, and they're saying, Delta, your brand is the brand I want to fly, whether it's in a pandemic, and even more importantly, when we're out of the pandemic.
Shai, how about Virgin Atlantic? Is a little bit different because you didn't have the sort of US government support, but maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that you put in place.
Look, and the audience knows this, and of course, Ed, who's on our board and represents a 49% stake in Virgin Atlantic, knows this better than anyone. We have gone deeper and further than most airlines in our restructuring because we had to. And doing that had a devastating impact on many innocent people. The intensity of the decisions we took early on served us towards survival. We set ourselves 3 criteria. 1 is to survive. 1 is love, which is really returning to our very best for our customers and our people at the, when things stabilize. And then profitability. We want to get back to being a profitable and a sustainably profitable airline. The thing that we did, so that's kind of actions, but the point that was new to us was communication. We were not able to get together, of course, by virtue of lockdowns and just distributed operations in any case in an airline. But we really took communications to the next level, 2-way, open. And importantly, everything we said throughout this pandemic was first said internally and then only externally. So the internal lens that I'll give an example. On May the 5th, I had probably the toughest call of my life. There were 10,000 people on the line. Initially, we thought that was not possible until we found that Cisco WebEx can do 150,000 lines. And I, on May the 5th, had to give the entire company the news that we were going to take severe action and reduce, at that point in time, our workforce by over 3,000 jobs. Ultimately, we reduced the size of the workforce by 4,700. But this ability to talk to people on a regular basis, we use Workplace religiously, which is basically Facebook for organizations. And every Friday, I communicate as openly as I can with the situation, as bluntly and as honestly as it is. Sometimes good news, sometimes bad news, but always open, always transparent. And that, I think, the fact that people can comment and ask and engage and feel that they are trusted to share their feelings through this pandemic has served us so well. And I think this is one of the things that we will be taking forward into the future.
You know, if I could add something to that, Mary Lee, we also have workplace, and Shai and I have both been religious users with our people. It's just incredibly important. The word we haven't talked yet that I want to make sure is also out there is the word trust. What we are is we're a trusted brand for our customers as well as our employees and our communities. And the transparency built even more trust than we've ever had before, because people saw real authenticity and they saw the pain and the challenge. We were confronting the hard facts, the brutal reality that we knew we were going to get through, but we just didn't quite have all the answers. And saying you don't have all the answers when you're when people are desperately seeking answers is incredibly hard to do as a leader, because we're paid to have the answers, right? And people look to us for the answers, but also it built the trust that we were going to make sure that we developed the answers together.
You too, as leaders and your airlines, put people at the heart of what you do. It's commendable. The airline industry has been one of the hardest hit by COVID. We know that. And I don't think today we certainly don't have the time to do justice to the complex topic of the effect of purpose on your talent. But maybe you could share, Shai, you just talked about, getting so many people on one call, but maybe share examples of how purpose helped you manage the situation and keep your staff motivated, which would have been so incredibly difficult. As you say, Ed, they expect leadership to have all of the answers. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about some of the things that you did with your folks. Ed, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. We probably could spend an hour talking to that question alone, right? Because it's fundamental to how we've gotten through this, keeping our people as one and protecting our people. Protection, first of all, at the very basic level, is their health. We ensured that anyone in the company that had, in the early days, the early weeks of the pandemic, that was exposed at some type of underlying health issue, comorbidity, whatever you want to call it, to this disease that we were still learning about. We took them out of the workplace. And there are thousands and thousands. We said, please just stay home. We're not furloughing you. We're paying you. We're providing your benefits. We just don't want you to get sick. We've tested. We were one of the very first airlines. We started testing in June of 2020, our entire workforce, and ensuring that they were, and it was incredibly expensive and it wasn't easy at that time. We were testing for antibodies for people to find out if they had already had the disease at that point. But what it did is allowed us to find where the disease was in the marketplace, in our workforce. We had, I think it was over 5,000 people that we detected an asymptomatic condition. They had the disease, they didn't know it. And us being able to identify it, get them out of the workplace, not only kept them safe, kept the people that they interacted with, their families, co-workers, customers safe, incredibly important. And we still test to this day. Vaccines, we've had on our campus here in Atlanta, the largest vaccination site in the state of Georgia. We've vaccinated over 150,000 people on our campus in concert with the state of Georgia, the public health agency. And when you think about every morning, I'd come to work early and I'd see, lines, kind of trying to get into our campus of people, not just our own people, the public and the community coming to get vaccinated in our museum or on our campus, life-changing, and the joy that people were feeling that they finally felt like they were going to be able to be safe from the disease was incredible. So it all had a people-centered focus, through that. Of course, it also extended to how we took care of people through the customers and blocking middle seats, making sure that our care standard, the cleanliness of our aircraft have never been better. I've given our team the charge that I want at any time a customer walks on a Delta airplane to have that factory fresh feel as they're bringing on, and customers are telling us it's working. So every part of the way we've been out there about protecting people from the disease and protecting not just them, but protecting their future here.
That's wonderful. Shai, do you want to answer for Virgin?
I'm going to add, look, we look up to Delta quite a lot. And so I'm going to add just a different dimension to that. I'll tell you what our people did during the pandemic, which has nothing to do with Virgin Atlantic, but has to do with what we did with the communities. So our people became vaccinators. We allowed them and promoted cooperation with the National Health Service in the UK. And because our people are known for their service, but they're also trained for emergency care. So it was easy to train them as vaccinators. They became people who went into specific hospitals to provide care for the doctors and nurses and the staff when they were off duty, to ensure that they got some love, a tea, a biscuit, just not a hug, of course, that was not possible, but just a smile, which they're famous for. Our cargo team, was right off the bat the quickest probably in industry in seizing the opportunity, both commercially, but importantly, bringing PPE equipment to the United Kingdom from China and elsewhere. So some of them have gone to become ambulance drivers. So it's just, that is what we saw our people do, and the love and the passion and the desire to help out. It's no luck or it's no coincidence that our people were able to do so much for the communities which we serve, which again, our vision, not our purpose, is to be the most loved travel company. We know that it comes with a great degree of responsibilities to our people, of course, our customers, the communities which we serve and operate in, and of course, the planet. But that is just one or a few examples of the manifestation of that ethos of our people in service of the community.
Wonderful stuff. I'm loving all of this. You two obviously are big advocates for purpose, but there's a lot of CEOs that don't really know what to do with purpose. In our study, 3 in 5 CEOs who have or want a company purpose admit that they're not really sure how to put it into practice. What advice would you give other CEOs who kind of want to have a purpose, but really not sure what to do with it or how to make it real? Shai, do you want to start with that one?
This is a tough topic. First of all, anybody who tells you that he knows or she knows exactly what to do with purpose is really just not telling the truth. This is an ongoing debate, and we're learning as we go. But I would say that the best CEOs, the best companies know how to use purpose as a primary lens for making decisions. It can be a secondary. It's not an opportunity just to promote the brand with purpose. And I think, Ed articulated that, and I second that. We have learned that purpose serves our people and it serves our customers well, because it's the thing that unites us. And for us, it's not that we're perfect, but we do try to take decisions with the lens of purpose. And I'll give an example, which has nothing to do with the pandemic. But when we bought the new planes, the A350s, to replace the 747s and the A340s, just on financial measures alone, it was harder to make that call. But with the support of our people, our shareholders, Ed and others, we were able to think about it in a more holistic way, which of course now will serve us very well because we bought the most efficient planes. And if we didn't have that purpose of sense of responsibility to the planet, we may have come to a different conclusion. The conclusion was the right one, both financially, but also from a purpose and our standing with customers who make a choice every single day. And actually, Ed told me something just on Monday. Customers are going to make new decisions out of this pandemic, and they're going to make them based on companies that go beyond just the bottom line. The Generation Z, the people new to flying, people who are making these decisions, they have a choice, and they're going to choose companies which go beyond just business. It's got to be so much more these days.
Yeah, agree. Ed, do you have anything to add to that?
It's tough to add. Shai did a great job on that question. I say the thing that a lot of companies, Europe and the UK have been ahead of the US for a long period of time is ESG. focus on the environment, focus on our social responsibilities, and focus on our governance and how we manage our responsibilities. And it's certainly the hot topic here in the U.S. Investors are scoring companies based on ESG and the platforms that they're creating. Customers are choosing airlines that are brands that they believe in, and employees are looking to work for a company that they believe in, that the purpose that they provide. And we know in the US, and I think the same is true in the UK, that one of the outcomes of the pandemic is that there's a war for talent going on. Employees, people are having opportunities to reassess where they work, how they work, who they want to be with. And it's the companies that show that purpose, show the role that they play in society, making it better, show that there's a sustainable platform for the future, which is one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenges that both Shai and I face in our industry for the future, is that this is a sustainable future that we can be proud of not just the product, the way we serve, but it's how we serve it for the world and the environment and future generations. Those are going to be the winners.
I'm glad you brought up ESG because that was one of my questions. I wanted to ask you how you view the relationship between purpose and sustainability. How does that work?
Well, sustainability for us is fundamental. And I appreciate that we're not as advanced as a society in the US as our European colleagues are. But how I've described it to our investors and our customers, as well as our people, is a couple things. First of all, if we don't have a sustainable future, we don't have a sustainable business, full stop. The world is not going to give us permission to continue to take the resources in and not return the resources back to the world and show the value that we create with the resources that we're utilizing. And secondly, we don't want to put our customers in a position of having to choose between seeing the world and saving the world. Right? We can do both. It's going to be hard. Will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenges this industry will face for the future. But we've just been through a really hard 18 months of pandemic, which is tied to sustainability, is tied to health, is tied to resilience, tied to wellness. And when I think about this, obviously sustainability and the environment is a big part of it, but it's our people. It's their wellness, it's their resilience, not just their physical coming through the pandemic, it's their emotional balance. We all know how emotionally challenged this period of time has been for all of us, no matter where we are. We've been all marked by what we've been through. Financially, they've been challenged with our profits down, and people are having to figure out how they're going to make it through themselves, and bringing them the support, which we're doing here at Delta. And then also socially, because our customers, our employees see all this, and they see all these conflicting objectives, and they sometimes don't know whether this is a company that they feel they can be a responsible part of the future, and they can, but we've got to reach out to them and show them how they can make a difference for the world, including diversity and inclusion for our communities.
Yeah. Shai, do you want to comment about sustainability? You're very close to the green aspect. So
yeah, and look, first of all, I think it starts with the recognition that sustainability or climate change is really the challenge of our lifetime. We think the pandemic is our challenge of the lifetime. It may feel like that, but the bigger one, the one that transcends a few years, I think is that one. And airlines should exist, and travel is necessary for visiting loved ones, of course, and for business, and business must continue. So it's not an either or. We must do this better. At Virgin Atlantic, we've been working on sustainability since 2005, so it's not new to us. But we're about to announce and comment on some new goals. Of course, the net zero by 2050, but by 2026, we want to improve our efficiency even more by 15%, and by 2030, another 15% on the overall emissions, and actually introduce sustainable aviation fuel. So there's a lot to get done. We're going to publish a mini manifesto on our commitment. We know that we're going to make a lot of mistakes. We know that people may travel less, but when they travel, they should be choosing companies like Delta and Virgin, who are really trying to do the right thing by the planet, by the people, recognizing that this is a very, very big challenge. And the path to net zero for aviation is going to be full of success, but a lot of disappointments along the way. This is a very tough problem, but it's our job to solve it. And if we're not going to try, no one will.
Yeah.
I think Shai said it well. But there's things we can be doing in the short term. And one of the things that Delta's doing is that we are investing in carbon offsets so that we are today a carbon neutral airline. So every customer that comes on board a Delta flight, you can know that we're investing in reforestation projects, clean water projects, ways in which we can put nature to work to reclaim the Earth's resources, not just using it through sustainable aviation fuels, which are critical for the future. But it's going to take time for all those technologies to be developed and provided commercial feasibility. So there's stuff we can be doing now, and our ability for customers to know that when you fly in a Delta flight, you're investing alongside Delta back into the planet. It's so it doesn't need to be this long off 30-year journey. We can be doing stuff today.
So also wrapped up in ESG are the social issues. How do you view the role of purpose on weighing in on social issues? And I'm thinking, it's obviously very prevalent here in the US with Black Lives Matter, for example. So maybe a couple of words on that. Ed, I'll start with you since you're based here.
Yeah. So one of the things that the pandemic has done is as we all came to a sudden stop, we were forced to look at the world in which we live. We're forced to see the inequities of the world in which we live. We saw that the wealthy that could afford to stay home and quarantine in their nice rooms and living rooms and be served by people that couldn't afford to stay home, essential workers having to come out and bring them food, bring them whatever they needed for life's necessity. The inequality of that was just striking. So when the George Floyd murder occurred in May of 2020, I'm not surprised with the outcry that we all felt and we all saw amongst our Black and underrepresented communities, particularly in the corporate world. And it gave us all a chance to say, this world needs leadership. Sometimes we're not seeing it from our elected officials with the advances and knowing how divided we are today as a country on almost any topic. It doesn't matter whether it's vaccines or political affiliations. This is not a topic that you should have anything other than full inclusiveness and people united to make the world better for all people and give opportunity out to all folks. And so at Delta, we took a hard look at what we're doing and recognized that we haven't done enough for our Black and particularly, the underrepresented people of color within our management ranks, and finding pathways for greater growth, finding ways in which we can reach out within our community to continue to be, even in this tough time, a great source of opportunity, whether it's the investments we're making in our education systems and reaching down into the pipeline of generations to come and make sure that they have a better opportunity than their predecessors were provided. And it's been comprehensive, and we're not going to solve this, just like the issue of sustainability. We're not going to solve in a matter of years. It's not going to be writing checks that's going to be making a difference. It's about passion. The only way we're going to solve sustainability is by being passionate and knowing it's critical to our future. And I think the same way about equity and inclusion and diversity. Our differences make us better, make us stronger, and continue, as you say, give us that purpose as to why we're here doing what we do.
Shai, what's your perspective on the sort of social issues aspect?
Yeah, and we're fortunate to be founded 37 years ago by Sir Richard Branson, who's always stood for equality and equal representation and equal opportunity. So we go back a long way. He set up when he was 16, an LGBT chat line. This was when he was 16 years old, which is going back a few years. So it's in our ethos, it's our DNA. For us, we've taken it to the next level in the sense that for the way we see it, it is about a sense of belonging. about being yourself at work. We run 4 networks. Actually, they run themselves with sponsorship from our leadership team, LGBTQ+, disability, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic group, and of course our Scarlet group, which is really about female and women power in aviation and of course in management and leadership. And we do things through those networks. And it's not that we do them, our people do them and actually tell us what they want to see. Our job is to free them up, allow them to act in unison to the things that matter to them. Now, we are all, like I said, learning all the time. It's clear that we haven't done enough and that there is more to do. This journey, like the other one, is a very long journey, but I think we're privileged, both Ed and I, to lead organizations that put this at the heart of everything. This is not lip service. This is things that we know we want to achieve. And the beauty of running companies, of working in successful companies, is that we have a platform. Ed has a very large platform. We have a much smaller platform, but nonetheless, a platform for change.
So I got a question from one of our audience members, which kind of speaks to a question I had about the measuring success of the purpose. Is there a feeling that customers will indeed make their airline choice based on who is doing the right thing when it comes to sustainability, but you could also relate that to D&I or to anything really, doing the right thing? Do you think that is the motivation, or do you do it because it is the right thing? Or is it interchangeable?
I think it's both. It is the right thing, and we lead, and Shai leads with the Virgin team. Companies that know why they exist, and their people know why they do what they do, and it's our role as leaders to ensure that we continue to reinforce that and provide them the tools and the technology and the support to go do and make a difference in this world. Now I talk about that power of connection, but the one thing that, again, speaking from a U.S. perspective, that at the start of the pandemic, there were a lot of pundits out there that said that this is going to be a challenging time for the industry, of course, but it was also going to be a point where the low-cost models, the airlines that had just the lowest price points, were going to take advantage of the higher premium-based carriers or the larger carriers, because they'll be more agile, they'll be lower price point, there'll be economic reasons why customers will choose them. And I can tell you that is not what's happened. It's not the approach that we took at Delta. We thought at Delta that customers are going to, more than ever, appreciate the airlines that are looking after them. They're protecting them. They're protecting their space, as we did. We blocked the middle seats, protecting their comfort, the cleanliness of the product, the hygiene, the care, the communications, how we talk differently about our future. And as a result, at Delta, even though we blocked the middle seats for well over a year, we had more revenue on our planes than any of our big competitors here in the US who were selling their planes out. So if you say, are people choosing during this pandemic? Absolutely they are. And we've seen that in our customer satisfaction. Our net promoter scores have been meaningfully higher than any time in our history. And we see coming out of the pandemic that those rates staying. I mean, that premium value that we bring was never more on stage than it was during this last 18 months. And I know as corporates come back to travel, as international borders open in the coming months, that value is going to continue to show itself, because with the brands and the companies that took care of people during the tough times.
Shai, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and look, and apologies, somebody's just at the door, but that will go away in a second. Airlines are obsessed with measurement. And so are we. We measure, in relation to the things that we're talking today, we start with happiness. We measure our people's happiness by virtue of actually continuous surveys, and then of course larger surveys at the mid-year and the end of the year. And of course, it's the ethos that Ed said at the beginning. Take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers, and they'll take care of the bottom line. Something that Richard Branson said many years ago. We measured religiously the journey. So our net promoter score is probably one of the most sophisticated in industry. We want to know everything you think about the journey we provided you, because we know that we can do better. And we know that our people excel in providing that service. We track the brand. in terms of its brand power and strength, and the sentiment towards the brand, which is impacted by the things we've talked about today. And then from a leadership perspective, we've started to use a nudging system with a company called Humu out of the West Coast in the United States, where we, based on the feedback from our people, we provide leaders with reminders of what could help them become better leaders and feed that virtuous cycle. So yes, measurement is key, and we intend to go further on every aspect of it.
I had an interesting personal question here from the audience. How do you keep your own confidence up during the last 18 months when faced by so much uncertainty and dealing with a pandemic that has lasted so much longer than anyone could have anticipated? What has given you the strength to lead with such purpose?
I'll start, and Shai, I know has given this question a lot of thought and reflection as well. The early days of the pandemic was devastating for everyone. It was, we at Delta, we were at the highest of highs. Our company had never, in 2019, we closed the year out, the best year, not just in our history, the best year of any airline on the globe ever had in terms of total revenues and profits, profit sharing that we paid back. You talk about purpose and keeping your employees. We provide 15% of our profits back to our employees to this day. We continue to do that. We paid out on Valentine's Day 2020, $1.6 billion to our people. That's kind of my last memory pre-pandemic of joy. And then it just went from there to less than 5% of our revenues in 30 days. So the fall was as dramatic as I think any business could have experienced. And so it was that question of how do you kind of pick yourself up once you're have your knees cut out from you, and your whole, everything you had built was shuttered overnight. And in my take on it, for myself, is as I gave thought to it, I allowed myself, a little bit of time to be disenchanted, to be angry, to say this is not right. How did we get here? But that was for a very, very small period of time, very small period of time. Within a couple of days, I realized that this company needed leadership like never before in its history, and probably never will be in the future history of the company than right now. And I don't know how we got here. It wasn't our choosing, but as leaders, we're here. And it's our privilege and our honor to lead this company to a safe passage. The tens of thousands of employees and the communities that depend on us, the hundreds of millions of customers that depend on us for travel, the world that needs our product. And what an honor, what a privilege to lead the company through its darkest days. And you have to give yourself pep talks as you go. That sounds nice, and after a while, that kind of wanes too. But I really do look at every day that I'm here. I have the privilege to lead a great company that's depending on me, is depending on our leadership team, and there's no other place I'd rather be.
Shai?
I'll share a few secrets if Ed will allow me a bit in a few seconds. But we had early indication of something big was happening in February. In the end of January 2020, when things were starting to happen in China, our cabin crew felt uneasy about flying to China, and we suspended flights to China on February 1. 2020, and I thought that was the biggest decision I would ever make as a CEO. Suspending one line of flying, because our people did not want to go for the right reasons. They wanted to feel safe. So we had an inclination of what was coming. In March, it was absolutely clear, and I remember, just like Ed, this is really happening. So why am I in this? And I quickly figured out why I was not in it. I was not in it for the money, and I was not in it for the ego, but I was in it for two things. One was to save Virgin Atlantic, and the second is I knew it would have a devastating impact on our people. So I would try and fight for every single job I could. We did some innovative things. We put people on hold pools, which we will welcome them back in cabin crew and pilots. So it's knowing that I could save the company or try with the team, save the company and save the jobs. And I must say, from time to time, when things were dark, I would call Ed. And what you've just heard him say, he would tell me, and we would share some experiences and just talk to each other. But mostly Ed would inspire and lead and provide me the comfort and help me focus on the right things. So having a partner, having a friend, having a colleague, that's what you need. Beyond the family, you just need somebody who understands what you're going through. And I could not ask for a better person than Ed.
That's great. And that's just a wonderful learning. How have you managed to keep your leadership teams focused on purpose? Because obviously you two are very purposeful. How do you make sure that your leadership teams are aligned in the same way that you are on purpose?
Go ahead, Shai.
No, I was just going to say, first of all, our team is more purposeful than me. So it's not like I am their beacon for purpose. They are the same as we are and more. I think the biggest lesson I've learned, and it's a word that Ed used again, the biggest lessons for me during this pandemic was the point of trust. So we trusted our people, we trusted our leadership team to fight and survive and innovate and pursue new ideas in service of the bigger cause. So knowing that they're there and knowing what their motivations are, and the fact that we're united by the same things that I said initially, that's liberating. During this pandemic, not one individual can really truly understand what is going on in an airline, which is a very complex business. The only way to get it is trust the people and know that they're doing the right thing just as you are. So that's how we did it at Virgin Atlantic. And I'm sure Ed will say something similar on his team.
No, it's so true. It's the people collectively, our leadership team broadly, that gives me the strength to do what I do, and I try to return that to them. And it's brought us all much closer together. We in 2019 we had record results, but I'll tell you that we were tired because we were running so fast and so many different initiatives and so many opportunities. I'll never forget January 2020 being the lead on the stage at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas at CES. It was kind of the spotlight, the opportunity we had to talk about where we're going, the future of travel. It was exciting, it was exhilarating, but we were also not as connected as a team. And the pandemic forced us all, it stopped us. And one of the things we learned is we needed to be tighter together to hold each other through this and ensure that we're getting through this as one. A few people left us along the way. They opted out, and I understood why. And it was completely after a lot of conversation. But the vast majority of our team has stayed intact, has stayed in place. And as Shai says, not for the money, because we're for myself, I gave up all my salary for the entire year last year, and many of our leaders gave up much of theirs. We did it for the right reasons, and we leaned on each other. I convened and started every day through the pandemic, a 9 o'clock daily meeting with our team. And if there's nothing else, just to be together. And we by the way, we stayed in person. We stayed in the office. We didn't retreat to the bunkers. Our people had to be out there on the front line serving customers and keeping the airways open. And it was my responsibility to show them that I wasn't sitting back in my home watching them work, that I was right on the front lines, flying right through the pandemic and being in our offices right through the pandemic as a show of unity. And as a result, we collectively as a team walked this airline back up. And we're continuing, by the way, with those meetings every single day to continue to walk this airline back to where it needs to get to.
I was at your keynote at CES. That was pretty amazing. And the team did seem very together. So that's good that you've kept them together. I've got a great question here from somebody who's anonymous. What's the biggest lesson in leadership or biggest learning you took away from the last few years? Not just the last couple of years, but sort of as respected, experienced leaders, how do you continue to learn and grow and make sure that you're at the top of your game?
I'll start, give Shai a chance to think about that. It will come back to what we've talked a lot about. It will come back to people, just how important our people are. We're a service business. We're out there to serve people and to make people feel better, to get, for whatever reason they're traveling, to know that they're comforted to be on Delta if they're an international travel returning home to the US. As soon as they enter that door and they sit in their seat in Delta One, they feel like they're halfway home from the journey because it's a familiar, it's a comforting feel. And and this is challenge. It's been a challenging time for people to feel comfort because there's such angst and uncertainty. So focusing on their wellness, focusing on their resilience, investing in their health has taken on a new meaning in the last couple of years. But we've been on this journey. So when one of the very first calls I made when the pandemic hit was to the fellow CEO of the Mayo Clinic, Gianrico Ferrugia, who's turned into a good friend. And we've always had a partnership with Mayo, but we were never as tight as needed. We didn't have a chief health officer or medical officer at the time. And I said, Gianrico, I need you to be my chief medical officer and health officer and guide me through the early days of the uncertainty, and led to us actually hiring one of his top physicians as our chief health officer and taking care of people. And that was it. And I think that's going to be the number one finding and leadership lesson for Delta and for me coming through this, is that if your people are your most important asset, and they are in our business, you need to make sure you're doing everything you can to support them financially, emotionally, physically, socially in a tough environment, and they will do an even better job. There will be even greater affinity to the brand, and that will reflect itself in how they take care of customers, and customers will feel that wellness as a result of that process as well.
Shai, anything to add from your perspective?
I'll be, I think I mentioned trust was my biggest learning throughout this pandemic, and remains probably my biggest lesson for my personal future, as long as I'm an executive, but in general. But on top of that, and it's something that I understand the value of, pandemic or not pandemic, but it served us well, is curiosity. Our job is to really be at the intersection of a lot of information and distilling it down to the essence of what really matters. If you have that innate quality of talking to people, listening what they have to say, calling the Mayo Clinic, reading an article that may not be related, understanding the trends of the pandemic before it really is going there, just to understand the patterns, that comes out of curiosity. We put it now into our leadership qualities that we're looking into people. It's not their knowledge that they have, it's the ability and the drive to know more, to understand more, and then to really distill it to what matters. So trust and curiosity are my two takeaways from the last few years.
So obviously we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. We're hopefully coming out of the pandemic. It feels like there's a real demand for consumers to start traveling again. We're seeing travel going up. We're seeing interest in going places going up. And an opportunity for the airline business to get back to good financial health. What do you think are going to be the next biggest challenges that you're going to face in the next, 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, for us, there will be a number of challenges. Right now at Delta, we're about 2/3 of the way back when I think about our revenue base. So we still need to get the international borders, not just to the UK, but to the rest of the world, open. And I think it's going to be a very uneven return to the globe based on how the virus is doing, based on how vaccine rollouts in certain parts of the world, the underdeveloped parts of the world, unfortunately, not having access is going to be a real challenge for us in our return to keeping the pandemic down to a managed level. So I think it's going to be 2 to 3 years that we're going to continue to, on a global scale, fight this issue, and we've got to be agile and we got to be prepared, and we need to know that there's going to be surprises. There's going to be things that are outside of our control. We know we're not going to conquer the virus. We have tools to manage the virus and tools to keep us safe, but it's not going to go away. In our business, which is as affected as anyone, the fact that we're on a video People are asking, what's the durability of business travel, or, why would I get on a plane if I can just turn on my screen in my living room and get the same content? Well, you can do that, but you're not going to have the same feeling about it. You're not going to have the same richness of relationship or the people that you're going to meet when you're sitting alongside at a session like this. So I think these are all the things. Video technology particularly is one that there's a lot of pundits that talk about the end of business travel and the demise of what we do. I don't buy any of that at all. I look at video technology candidly as much as enabling mobility as restricting mobility. Video technology, this doesn't require you now to stay in your home and watch this. It doesn't restrict it actually enables you. You can take your screen with you and your office with you when you go out on the road. And so you're actually more productive, you're more engaged, you're freer to move and freer to travel because of this. And, because we haven't, this is a forced adaptation, we haven't been able to actually fully explore what these tools will be for the future. To me, they're clearly going to be a complement to making people's travel richer and their experience better. It's not going to be a substitute for travel.
Right. Thank you, Shai. Shai.
Yeah, and for us, it's a bit different. We're lagging the recovery in the US. Virgin Atlantic is a very special case, a long haul only. Most of the traffic is across the Atlantic with our partners at Delta. So actually, I'm focused on the next 6 to 12 months, really to full force. Now that the US finally repealed or will repeal Proclamation 212F, and that UK nationals and European nationals can travel safely to the United States is a big turning point for us. Ramping up is as difficult as what we've done on the ramp down. So making sure that we do this in a very safe way, looking out for our people and customers, is a big challenge. In the long run, I believe that the carriers that are full service, that stand out for the things that we united today about in purpose and doing the right thing and looking out for the communities which we serve, I'm not worried about the long run. I'm worried about, what this pandemic still has to throw at us. It's completely unpredictable. There is a winter ahead of us in the Western world, and we know the winter is going to be tough. So the next 6 and 12 months is my focus, the team's focus. And after that, I'm very positive about the future for aviation, Delta and Virgin Atlantic.
That's great. I think somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Ed, mentioned connectivity earlier. And I would like to think that in another 6 to 12 months, we will be moving about more freely and being able, I would have loved to have done this in person. And so next time I see you, I hope it is in person. But for now, thank you so much for your time this morning. We're so appreciative. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I hope that our listeners have enjoyed it. Big thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
I think Duncan is going to take over, hopefully.
I don't think I was, but I will, just to say
okay.
a huge thank you on behalf of British American Business. First of all, to you, Mary Lee, for moderating that discussion so brilliantly and fielding the questions from the chat and the Q&A. And then particularly to Ed and to Shai, thank you very much for being with us again and having such an illuminating conversation. I know just from the chat, there was a lot of feedback during the time, and as there always is, great to see you both, and good luck with the ramping back up. I put a note in the chat saying there isn't a long run if there isn't a short run in business. So the short term really matters at the moment. So good luck with that.
Absolutely.
See you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Mary Lee.
Bye-bye.